Hi guys, so Boris Johnson was probably hoping for a boost, a New Year boost in the polls, but that didn't really materialize. Now this is a tweet by The Guardian. It's about a poll that was carried out by Opinion, and I'll get to that in a moment. But the headline is 43% think Prime Minister should not continue as Tory leader, but only 20% say the same of Labour's Keir Starmer. Now I've talked about before how opinion polls are not indicative of the results of an election. We've seen that before, but they are good at understanding generally public opinion. So we've seen in the past how previous polls have pointed in the direction of greater support for the Labour Party, the Conservative Party taking a bit of a hit, Boris Johnson in particular taking a bit of a hit. And it's not just in England but also in Scotland. I've talked about before how Keir Starmer and Boris Johnson are not doing very well when compared to Nicola Sturgeon, for example. So what does this new poll say? Let's have a look at it. So it says here the first poll of 2021 found that 43% thought that he should resign, while 40% said he should remain as leader. So that's quite 50-50 in a sense. Although most Conservative voters, 87%, think Johnson should stay on as leader, with just 7% thinking he should resign. Now, this is interesting because you would think, well, if Boris Johnson's not very popular, then shouldn't that number be much lower? The problem is there is no alternative at the moment. If someone were to step forward, like Rishi Sunak or Michael Gove or someone else like that, perhaps you would see a different number there. But because there's no one really opposing Boris Johnson at the moment, nobody really wants this hot potato of Brexit and the pandemic. You know, this is it's a poison chalice in a sense. That's why the numbers for Boris Johnson are still quite high. The Conservative Party and the country, I think, at the moment are extremely polarised. The Conservatives are going to support Boris Johnson. They're not going to support Keir Starmer. But at the moment, that's the case. Now, just 20% believe Keir Starmer should resign as Labour leader, with 52% saying he should remain as leader. This is off the country, so 20% believe he should resign. This is a very small. This is probably Conservatives and maybe the far left within the Labour Party. They're not happy with Keir Starmer, and of course, the polarisation comes in here. Conservative voters don't like Keir Starmer because he's Labour. There are also signs of a slight drop in support for the government's handling of coronavirus. Some 72%, +4 on the last poll, think the government has not acted fast enough, with 42% thinking they're definitely not acting fast enough. So you can see on the left here, we have the Opinion Observer poll. So what would you say you approve or disapprove of the job Boris Johnson has done as Prime Minister in the government's coronavirus response? So 35% believe he done a good job. They approve of his work. 45% disapprove, neither, or 15%, and 4% don't know. And the survey was carried out on 2,000 UK citizens on the 6th and 7th of January. At the moment, this doesn't mean a lot because there isn't an election. But as we get closer to an election, or by-elections, for example, then it's going to be a concern for the Conservative Party. Now, I've said before that as soon as Boris Johnson becomes a problem for the Conservative Party, they're going to consider dropping him. Someone like Rishi Sunak or Michael Gove will step forward and Boris Johnson will be kicked to the curb. You have to remember that the Conservative Party care about the Conservative Party. They don't care about the leader. Leaders come and go. There is no loyalty to the leader. There is loyalty to the leader during a pandemic or during a crisis, or when the opposition are trying to perhaps take over. Then there is loyalty to the party, rally around the leader. But as soon as Boris Johnson starts to create problems for the Conservative Party, once individual MPs start to feel the heat, or they or maybe lose a by-election, or a council election, local elections, as soon as that happens, the Conservative Party will sit down with Boris Johnson and say, you need to go. You need to be replaced. You're causing us to lose support. It's okay if you're losing support, but it's not okay if the party is losing support. And while on the surface you may say, well, these opinion polls mean nothing, it's a small number, it's not going to affect the party at the moment because there isn't an election. The party look at these polls and they scrutinize them because they understand that if Boris Johnson is becoming toxic, if he's becoming a problem, there's a risk that he will pull the party down with him, and they want to avoid that where possible. Parties are not very good at dealing with these sorts of issues. They tend to wait until the very last moment. There is a sort of loyalty within the party towards the leader, but the party itself is not loyal. So that's one of the reasons why it seems that unpopular leaders remain on for too long, and we've seen examples of that in the past. But going forward, I think the Conservatives are going to consider whether Boris Johnson is an asset or a liability. At the moment, he's a liability, but they are not in danger of losing seats or losing support to any significant amount. So Boris Johnson will remain there. And also because he is taking a lot of the heat away from the party. The pandemic, he's getting blamed. Brexit, he's going to be blamed. And whoever fills his shoes will, of course, blame him for the problems that came before. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about this poll and about what will happen to Boris Johnson. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?